Welcome to Senior Living Marketing Perspectives. I'm Debbie Howard from Senior Living Smart, and today I am joined by Jay Buerck of Digital Strike. We're going to be digging in, kind of be doing a deep dive today about paid AdWords, Google AdWords, pay-per-click campaigns, about strategy. And Jay is the director of strategy for Digital Strike, and this is their wheelhouse. This is what they do all day, every day, is to really look at, bringing qualified leads into the senior living space. So, Jay, we are thrilled to have you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a big topic. So I'm sure there'll be lots of questions, and, people hopefully will reach out with additional questions after. But just in case people don't know Digital Strike, maybe you can give us a little bit of the backstory and tell us a little bit about, who you are, who Digital Strike is.
Yeah, so Digital Strike, we're a search-focused marketing company. And what that means is we mostly focus on organic search and paid search, both in AdWords and in Google or in Bing ads as well. So our real focus is trying to harness that intent-based marketing from search engines. We're about 10 years old. Our founder, Chris Westmeyer, came from a large agency, WPP World, and started a small little shop. And about 4 years ago, we kind of stumbled into senior living marketing for a large group. I think it was about 26 locations. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of an interesting world to live in, and have learned a lot over the past 4 years. It's a really interesting industry. And I actually enjoy doing paid search campaigns within this industry specifically.
Yeah, it presents just a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities, right?
Yes, for sure, for sure. There's a lot of different players. You've got the lead gen websites that do a lot of pay-per-click advertising, a lot of organic search, a lot of directories out there. So it's a very crowded space. So it's really fun.
Yeah. And, just to put some perspective around it, we're recording in mid-March, St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, Jay, of 2021. And, would you say that the pandemic and the pivots that senior living has had to make to kind of create more of a digital experience for prospects, how has that impacted organic and paid search? We're certainly finding the costs are going up on the paid search, and it's getting more competitive as people kind of reallocated their budgets away from, traditional marketing and event marketing and things like that, and really kind of put a lot of their eggs, in that more of a digital journey. So from your perspective, since you've been in senior living for the last 4 years, and I think about half of your business is represented in the senior care and housing space, what changes have you seen, in the last year that are different than, maybe 3 or 4 years ago?
I mean, like all industries right now, as you said, 50% of our business is probably senior living, and, the other 50% we get to tackle a lot of different spaces. There's a lot of reinvestment in, like you were saying, websites and generating those leads. I think, and I'll probably reference this study a little bit more from a company called Dialogue Tech. They're a phone-based platform. And, there's like 40% less going on right now in the space. And so it's trying to capture a little bit of the limited opportunity that exists out there. So it's become a crowded space, and we ourselves even, to kind of help out some of our clients, have a directory as well, to kind of just help out in the organic space, as well as maybe run some paid search to it if the experiences on particular communities don't have a good experience. So we've seen some success from that too, like generating leads via our own websites as well. So we've invested in it ourselves, and it's just a very crowded space right now.
So are you saying that search volume is down by about 40%?
I think that's what it said on inside the report. I believe it was from McKnight Senior Living. Their publication, I believe, referenced that number. So it's interesting. But I mean, 75% of all the searches are beginning within, or at least the space of finding a community, are beginning online at this point in time. So with about 83% of those not knowing a community. So they're taking the first step, not knowing a specific community they want to use. So it's vitally important to be online, visible, and increase your visibility, whether that's organic search or through paid search.
Right. So with the with kind of the search volume, down, and we are beginning to see it recover. So yay.
Yeah.
We are beginning to see the searches. I would say the conversions have not caught up to the search volume, and the sales cycle is longer. So we've got to keep people engaged and nurtured, for a longer period of time. We're at this point kind of getting the needs driven more than the choice driven type of conversions.
Yes.
So with less search and more people kind of jumping in, has that just driven the price up? Have you seen that that's just more expensive to get leads, through the paid channels? And what is the difference between like Google and Bing? We look at Bing as being a more limited market, but then, for the older adult market that doesn't know how to change the browser that came with their computer, they're going to default to Bing. So we may be one of the only industries that Bing is viable, and we've seen it work sometimes in some markets better than others. But what's been the impact in terms of the cost and the competitiveness that you've seen through Google and through Bing?
Yeah, for sure. So first with Google, we've definitely seen an uptick in the cost per engagement, whether that's a phone call, a form fill, a chat. Chat's worked really well for a couple of communities. But yeah, you're right. It's the volume of people searching just in terms of that initial step. And what you're saying, the needs-based are definitely there to convert, as they always have been, but it is a long sales cycle, and it is a long cycle. So if your one aspect of conversion point is to drive to speak to an advisor, or to schedule a tour, or to, talk to somebody or fill out a form at that moment, it's a lot more challenging. But, it's that lead nurturing side of things where, I don't, working with Senior Living Smart on a specific community, we've been able to decrease the cost per acquisition by about a third of the cost, because, it's something, it's a soft touch lead engagement, such as a brochure download that captures that information and dumps them into this nurturing system, which I think, once we're past COVID, there's going to be more of a need for people to move in. I'm seeing it from the conversions, from the phone calls that we can hear. It just isn't right now, but it's paying today for tomorrow. And I think it's a solid investment for it.
Yeah, we're refilling our pipelines, right? So,
Yeah.
Well, let's start off kind of, I have so many questions for you. So let's start off kind of with the strategy. So if you're a senior living, VP of sales and marketing or owner, and you're like, we need leads, I think people instantly go to, first of all, how can we optimize organic? That's kind of the golden ticket, right? Everybody wants more organic because they're not, as shared, they're less expensive, maybe they're more connected to their brand. And then once we get to kind of maximizing what we're driving organically, then we've got to go out and just kind of buy those eyeballs and buy those clicks. So in terms of the strategy of setting up a campaign, and I guess we'll talk about it in two steps. One is, from an organic standpoint, what are the must-haves to really, make yourself visible, to get to that? Everyone wants that coveted page one. Everyone wants to be in that 3-pack. Everyone wants to be in that map module. What are the best practices to help operators, maximize their opportunities organically? And then how does paid search complement that? I think that would be a really, kind of good place to start. And then I have a million more questions.
Yeah. So, as I said before, we're kind of a search focused marketing agency. So from an SEO perspective, we look at it like three particular pillars of SEO. There's the technical side, there's the content side, and there's an authority side. And, for a lot of things, you have content, you throw it up on the site, you're hoping you can rank well, but really what you need to have the optimized content, and there's certain, softwares that can help you figure out the type of terms and how you need to, structure that content to be able to rank well. But it's really the power of the authority and the link building aspects of having other websites linked to your site to really help you rank well and to move up. And it can also impact, that local pack. Obviously on the local, it's very basic things like name, address, phone number, using a platform as easy as Yext. But all this kind of works together. If you're optimizing the content on the page for those local locations, and we're driving traffic to those pages too, from a paid search perspective, it increases the ability for us to possibly get a conversion on terms that, we may not ever be able to be in the top 10 for, just because it's a really competitive space. But with paid search, you can fill those gaps and you can fill those needs now, to be visible and to get the eyeballs and to get the name recognition. Because like we said earlier, 83% of people beginning their journey don't have an idea about what community they're going to go to. But if you're there visibly at the very beginning through paid search, because you're not ranking organically, that fills that gap and puts you in the game to play per se.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of good news for operators, right? There isn't like this one brand that's, even if you're competing against a national brand, nobody has really established name recognition. And that's probably because, prospects may look for the solution once or twice in their life. So it's not, it's not an everyday thing that people are, talking about which brand of ketchup they're using or something. And so it really does kind of level the playing field. So if people do the basic things and they're managing their citation management, their directory management, they're getting reviews and good reviews, and they're responding to those reviews, and, they're having educational content, blogs, and things that will elevate for authority, expertise, trust kind of elements. That's kind of a good place to start that really doesn't cost anybody much at all, right? It's
No.
very, very small investment.
No. And it's good to respond to those reviews too. Cause those are very, key points of also just helping, shape the conversation, show that you're dedicated, to the organization as well as to the people that you serve. So I think those, the review generation and responses are key as well, like you just said.
Yeah, optimizing the Google My Business listing, making sure the FAQs, it was in a listing yesterday, and it was a major brand. They have 42 locations, and their Google My Business was listed as a senior center.
Yeah.
They're not a senior center. They're an assisted living. Basic stuff. So let's say that, we get all the basic right, and we've done everything that we can do on the organic side, and we've optimized website and search and everything. Now we have a budget to do those paid Google AdWord campaigns. Where do you start in terms of creating the right strategy, creating the right campaign? Are there any, compelling messages? Do people respond better to videos or surveys or, things that are more interactive? I just love your sense of, where do you start in developing the right strategy? And then once we get to like that, and maybe we can look at it, Jay, like a first touch strategy, trying to get people maybe at the beginning of their research versus retargeting of people that maybe visit the website, don't take an action, and then we kind of know who they are by their IP, and we can kind of tee up those ads to them more directly. I'd love to know kind of your thoughts about strategy and then budget.
Yeah, for sure. So from a strategic standpoint, as you may know, and as I have learned, people look for this particular industry in a wide variety of terms. So, over the past 4 years, it's kind of been honed down to, a large set of terms, almost. There's different match types. I don't know the level of knowledge that the audience has here, but there's there's phrase match, there's broad match, and there's exact match. Well, I like to take the approach of a lot of exact match terms, because then I can control what kind of terms we're showing for. There was an account that I was digging in that had some of this like phrase match, which means it could be anything outside of, say, you're looking for senior living. Someone could look for, a specific brand name senior living, and you pull up all these competitor terms, instead of being exactly what maybe that that audience is looking for, there are about 40% of those searches is just like one-time searches. And there's plenty of data out there that, every day there's billions of searches that are brand new that occur. But with the exact match strategy, we can kind of control those types of terms that people are looking for, because a lot of those phrase matches match on a lot of very, questions, a lot of random things. I think someone, I saw a query about Andrew Cuomo and the nursing homes in New York and something like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
he paid for a click on that. And it's like, that's the kind of thing you can get to. So I like to start with a large variety of terms, exact match. And one of my favorite quotes is like a Mike Tyson quote. It's about everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And I feel like paid search is very much like that. Like I go into all these different markets and all these different, geos, and people search things a little differently. Over here, someone's going to use nursing home. Over here, someone's going to use senior living. Over here, someone's going to use assisted living and be that intelligent on that level of what they're looking for, the type of lifestyle. So it's kind of, for the initial phase here, launching it, seeing what happens, and making massive optimizations the first, 2 weeks to 4 weeks of just seeing where it trickles down to. So it's very interesting. So like I said, I just like to throw it out there and see from a very exact match type of terms. And see where our budget gets us. And so that leads me to this idea of budget.
Right.
One of the things we're seeing and, was verified by this report is that, a general engagement costs around $430. That's to get, a call, a form fill, something on this. So if we think about that from a $400 engagement, the CPCs or the cost per clicks range anywhere from, $7 to $13. And if your conversion rate looks like it's about 4%. So if you think about those dollars and cents and you spend about $3,000, that's about 7.5, engagements or conversions a month, which is kind of crazy to think about for a single community, to generate about, 7.5 to 8 potential engagements from that paid search account. Now there's things inside there you can do to optimize it a little bit better. Obviously, you're going to move forward to get even more from that. But what was interesting is, we're working on, a community in New Jersey, and it's about $130 an engagement that goes into your coffers. So, you stretch that out a little bit, you're looking at maybe 27 to 30 engagements, which gives you more opportunity then down the line to convert that with a soft engagement versus, a schedule a tour or, speak to an advisor or anything like that. So those are kind of the numbers you're working with. So if you think about, the benchmark industry is about 432 a conversion. So that gives you kind of that figure to know like how much to expect from that.
So, I mean, you can really kind of reverse engineer it and start with the conversation of, how many conversions, how many leads do you need per month? And, so if somebody says, I need 10 more leads every month, based on my, tour to move in ratio and my, my lead to tour and then tour to move in, they're going to have to spend $4,000 a month to get that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's kind of looking like. And I mean, obviously I'm a strong competitor. I compete with Google. I've been doing it for 16 years. I look at it as like a little war and a fight. So obviously I look for ways to bring that down all the time. I'm like, that's a standard, but I want to clip that, every opportunity I get. In some communities, just overall are about $300. Some of them are, $100, $130. It just depends on kind of the brand, the reputation, as well as those engagement points. And to that point too, about like the idea of brand versus unbrand, when it comes to strategy, what I've noticed is bidding on our own brand, it's not necessarily like a new engagement. So we like to do a lot of unbranded, like introducing the brand to new people. Just because it seems like there's not enough money to go around in all of
Yeah.
these campaigns. And so if I can put it into the places where we can effectively like generate more opportunity versus capture some of the opportunity that's already there, which we are most likely gathering from organic search or local search, I'd rather put my dollars in that and be upfront and be like, here's the cost per in all these situations.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, everybody wants those sales qualified leads. That's what we're seeing. Like we want conversions to phone calls and tours. But at some point you run out of those sales ready leads, but you can still maximize your spend to get people who are in awareness and who are in research. And the sales cycle might be longer, but we all are going to need those move-ins in 6, 8, 12 months anyway. So I know that's where we've had success with like downloading brochures, as simple as it sounds. Like nobody thinks that their brochure has value, but people want to know what you offer, your services, amenities. Is the location going to work for my family? Are you going to solve my problem? What are your floor plans? Can I afford you? And they will exchange their contact information to get that brochure. And that then gets them in hopefully a marketing automation to be able to nurture them. So I know one of the things we're working with you on is like, let's not push all the leads into the CRM. Let's figure out the sales qualified versus the marketing qualified. And I hope that's where the industry is going to go, is to have a little bit more patience filling the pipeline with those earlier stage leads that are less expensive. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll tell you, I was a bit skeptical too. I was like, I don't know how many people are going to click on these ads and fill out a brochure download, but I was quite surprised.
Yes.
I am quite surprised.
They will. They'll download it for, a variety of guides, ebooks, infographics. We got 800 visits to a website because we put a recipe card up on like Pinterest or something.
Yeah.
So it's funny the things that people will convert on. But yeah. And how about like the design of the ads? How much does, obviously the keywords, knowing what to broad match, phrase match, exact match. I mean, it's an art and a science, right? And it takes a lot of just ongoing, it's like a baby that you're watching grow every day. And you're like, okay. But, do you see any difference between display ads or carousel ads or video ads or just basic text ads? Like, how do people kind of think through the creative development of their campaign?
Yeah, I'll be honest. We only have focused on search specific campaigns, but with regards to even like the structure and the copy itself, trying to keep it uplifting, positive, not keeping away from anything negative that could be a sticking point or anything that could be looked at as fear mongering or anything like that. So trying to bring out the positivity of the community or the experience there. Because, a lot of the places, especially in independent living, is just like, feeling isolated or feeling that alone kind of mentality. But, you don't necessarily need to, beat that over the head. And, it's more about bringing into a community or be involved in a community. So while I can't speak to like the display and video, as that's not something that we've necessarily even been able to have any kind of budgets for either,
right,
without going after that search opportunity that's there from paid search. Sorry, I can't speak to those things, but
that's okay. I just wondered if there was a different strategy for like, first touch search versus, would there be a different strategy for retargeting where, maybe we knew that they visited the schedule a tour page and they didn't convert, but we now have their IP address. So, would you recommend that the one strategy would be to follow them offsite, and maybe they were interested in touring. They didn't fill out that form, but we could tee up a video. Here's a sneak peek, 30-second behind the scenes virtual tour, and maybe re-engage them to come back and say, that does look like a really nice community. I think I'll go back and actually schedule that tour. Do you see any value in that? Maybe it's not, maybe first touch campaigns are different than retargeting because we know a little bit more about the people that we're retargeting because we know what the last page is that they visited, for example.
Yeah. So to that point, we can do and have done remarketing list search ads. So taking the list and just queuing up those individuals with different kind of ad copy to encourage them to come back and fill out that schedule a tour based on, the fact that they came to the page, but they didn't fill it out. So there are capabilities, and we do that. We do use search ads, remarketing for sure. But yes, for most campaigns, like remarketing display, encouraging people to come back, videos, those are extremely effective. And we don't do it, but also as well inside like Facebook, remarketing and that channel too, being where they are in that realm as well.
Well, since you mentioned Facebook, let's talk about kind of the difference between, paid digital but social paid versus search paid with Google and Bing. We talk a lot about audiences, and Google and Facebook have done their best to not cooperate with us to be able to look for people that, we're always looking for that lookalike audience, the demographics that will convert, because not all traffic is good traffic or the right traffic. And as much as, views and impressions, are interesting, everybody wants conversions. So can you talk a little bit about kind of creating the right audience, the limitations that Facebook and Google specifically have put, and then how we have to use that information to consider, the strategy and the tactics of putting together a campaign?
Yeah. So I think it was maybe July 2019. Google and Facebook both came out with the Fair Housing Act policies. So a lot of that demographic targeting isn't available. We can't exclude via zip codes. We can't target people based on age, gender, a lot of the demographic targeting. So a lot of that has to play upon, like you were saying, lookalike audiences. So you have to drive that specific traffic to your site to be able to create these audiences, either through, a pixel on your site or even through some of your analytics audience creators. And so you do this, and then you can funnel that information into those platforms. And back to your point about, the specific nuances or differences between Facebook paid social and Google ads or Bing ads or just any kind of search marketing. You're playing off of intent versus kind of a disruption engine. So, I think of Facebook ads or Instagram ads or any of those kind of social ads as almost like a TV commercial. Like you're there to do something else, and then you see these little ads. Whereas, with search ads, you're keying up on intent. People are searching for this. And so they're, this is what they're looking for. And you're trying to be that answer for them and provide them the level of value they're looking for in return for that search. But all of these channels play together. You can drive the other way around too, with regards to driving a lot of traffic to Facebook, creating audiences and using that audience inside your search ads as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of togetherness. There's a lot of collaboration that can happen between, the two channels specifically.
It's hard. You have to be everywhere today. I mean, it's just like search, social, and email just have to all really, play together and be aligned strategically, because we've got to meet people where they are. And that's where everybody hangs out all day long. We're searching, we're on social channels, and we're emailing. So that combination, some people look at paid advertising as very tactical. Just run an ad. I need leads today.
Yes.
But if there's not the right strategy, and it's not integrated with nurturing and follow-up and lead scoring, so you understand the quality of the leads, people can spend a lot of money and just not get the results. And then they get super frustrated. So let's talk a little bit about expectations.
Yes, I was going to say. Good. That's a good segue.
That's a good segue. So tell us about how to manage expectations, within these campaigns, and what's realistic.
Yeah. So that's been kind of challenging. I think just talking to the right communities, the right stakeholders within them, taking our information, we can look at everything in a vacuum. You can look at your performance, we can look at our performance, but what's really great is when there's this study that comes out that just did, where it gives us some benchmark metric to at least hold our hat on to say, hey, publications and organizations within this industry have come out and put a flag. They've surveyed a lot of places. They understand that this is the lead metric. This is how much a lead costs. This is how much an opportunity costs. So that gives me something now to really set expectations. Whereas before, we're just speaking from our own experience of running a lot of campaigns, but a lot of things could be determined upon that metric as well. It could be, well, this brand is known a little bit more. Like we have a pretty known brand as well that we do paid search for that does quite well in the space. And we do have others that are a little less known. And so like, it's not really apples to apples in that situation, but we can bring that data. But now we kind of have this like neutral party metric and cost per conversion that's really going to lead that conversation and setting those expectations. So I'm kind of excited about it because I always feel bad leading with like, my own key metrics, because it could be something within my campaigns or it could be something within the way that I'm running this. But to know that I'm either equal or better than the industry standard, that makes it a little bit better. And then it forces me to, not that I need to be forced, but it creates this competition in myself to do and perform even better.
Yeah. It's always interesting. It's almost like there's an expectation that, when I start doing paid ads, it's like turning on a spigot. I add a lead today and I put money in and all these leads are just going to, flow in. And I wish it was the case.
Yeah. And it's been particularly hard too, especially, over the past, obviously last year with COVID. Like it's so different too. What was known before versus what is today versus what's going to be moving forward. We don't know what's going to happen with regards to move-ins and people. There's all kinds of things that could occur that might be outside the realm of how we're driving traffic or how we're trying to drive opportunity. That's outside of the realm of the strategy you take or the terms that you're bidding on or the type of content you're producing. So there's a lot of unknowns that are going to come out of this, not only just this past year, but even the next year.
Yeah. So, to that point, do you feel like, has anyone changed up their messaging? Like, is anybody kind of speaking to COVID in terms of intention? Is there an intentionality to rebuild trust, or is there any reference to, reopening or the extent that, kind of what we've learned and how we've pivoted as an industry to make sure that, this is the best choice and this is the right time to move in. Never a better time to move in than to senior living than now.
Yeah.
Because we have learned so much and we have figured out how to do so many things differently. But have you seen, because I just am not seeing it like on most websites that anyone is, and I look at direct mail campaigns that are going out and it's as though, they could have run these direct mail campaigns 18 months ago and like nothing's changed in terms of messaging. Are you seeing any change on the paid side at all?
Yeah, so we actually have a couple of communities that are promoting it either in like headline 2, headline 3, or even in our description lines for our paid ads, as well as on the website itself, with a pop-up talking about, the COVID vaccine, talking about being, COVID safe. I know there's a lot of that out there. So, there's like a few instances where we have that, haven't seen the impact today in terms of lead generation or even leads coming from that, but there are just a few things, a few communities running campaigns like that.
And then you also have call tracking and call recording capabilities as well.
Yes.
So have the conversation, so you can kind of listen in on the conversations that are happening between prospects and salespeople, right? It's like
yes, it's interesting. That is for sure. The first touch, it's mostly a front desk person. And the challenges that come with phone calls and phone tracking. It's very enlightening. Whenever you give that information to, directors of marketing or VPs of marketing or sales, it's like, oh man, what was that call again?
Yeah, it's always like just disappointing because it does cost, $400 to $500 to make that phone ring,
Mhm.
and then the experience that they get is often not a $400 or $500 kind of white glove experience. But have you noticed? I don't know whether you do keyword tracking or anything to find out, like, are the conversations different? Are prospects asking different questions today, than they did pre-COVID, or is there just not enough kind of data to really, kind of track that? I think it would be interesting to figure out, like, how should we be selling differently today based on the motivation and the questions and the concerns, which I've got to think are different.
Yeah, so far the conversations I've listened to, I know our president Chris Westmeyer, he listens to them a lot. I think it's like a
Yeah.
pastime or a favorite time of
Yeah.
his to listen in on these calls. But to be honest, I haven't heard a lot of conversations shifting to COVID or
Mm,
vaccinations, because if we're thinking about the market right now, you're needs based. So if
yeah.
you need it right now, I think that might be a less of a concern to you, whether,
Hmm.
the community is, vaccinated, or what kind of infection rates you have, or any of that kind of data points. So I mean, thinking on that particular topic, I just haven't heard a lot of the conversations I've listened to, which could be in the hundreds versus like probably the 10 to 15 thousands of calls that
Yeah.
we can listen to on a monthly basis in all the communities that we have.
Hmm.
Because we track all lead sources, including, Google My Business calls and things like that. So
Hmm.
there's a lot whenever you're managing, 100 to 30 communities
Yeah.
per organization. But yeah, I haven't heard much. And so that just made me think, well, if we're talking about needs based, that might not be a
Hmm.
concern at this point, for somebody to pick up the
Yeah.
phone and call.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I
Um,
know I know one of the questions I get is like, what percentage of my spend is really going to be lead generation versus the family that just didn't save our front desk number to their phone, and vendors, and what else is eating up my budget? Do you ever, kind of track the sales intent calls? Because I've heard sometimes it's like 40% is not even relevant.
Yeah. So going back to that conversation about tracking Google My Business calls and tracking everything. We have turned off call tracking specifically for GMB locations, because a
Hmm.
lot of those calls were for family, and I would say that it was actually a lot higher for phone calls from those particular uh, channels, or that particular channel.
Hmm.
Maybe 80% to 90% were current residents, or someone with a family member in the community.
Hmm.
The other thing I found with branded campaigns were probably 80% of those were the same kind of situation, almost the GMB listings as well, where there was a lot of people. There were also, even though you negative out job, career, you still had job
Hmm.
inquiries clicking on an ad, and you're like,
Right.
stop it. So it was like, okay, well, we're going to divert that money to unbranded, and go that direction. There's a couple of things we've done on a specific community. We have like a friends and family line versus a sales line. I think a couple
Yeah.
of other larger players in the space do that as well. That's actually worked to a significant amount. I didn't think it necessarily would, because a
Yeah.
lot of people aren't reading a lot. They just want to click a number.
Yeah.
That's worked really well. And then we also have a call flow that we've created on some communities as well, where it's like one for, if you're looking for a resident or a current resident, and two as like a sales or an
Hmm.
inquiry. And so that filters out that information as well. So we can kind of see the percentages there. Again, for the most part, most people are following that protocol as well.
Yeah.
Quite surprised there as well. So there's these things that we try to do in terms of mitigate waste within paid search, or even the call minutes and the numbers that we have. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I love those solutions. Those are really good proactive ways of trying to, uh, maximize your spend for true lead generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also assume, like, when we're going after unbranded terms, a lot of that should be cleaned up as well. Like, not a lot of people are searching for, let's say, assisted living near me and they're a current resident kind of situation.
Right.
Well, you're not hearing a lot of that. So by, removing that branded search, if you have a good brand name and do well organically, sometimes you're just not doing so well on an organic perspective. You might have specific lead generation websites ranked ahead of you in position 1, 2, or 3, and you're in 4 for some reason.
Yeah.
Then you might need to run that, so then you don't get leads sold back to you from those lead generation sources because you let the 4th one down. So
I think that happens so often that they were on our website first because they did search near you and you came up, but they got there and there was nothing for them to do. I mean, so many of the websites that we look at are just, they're online brochures.
Yep.
There's nothing engaging, there's nothing interactive, there's nothing to do once they get there. So if they can't chat or ask a question or take a survey or read a blog or download a guide or a brochure or something, we have 8 seconds to get them to take an action. Like, so we're working with Digital Strike to drive all this traffic to the website, and you're doing your job and you're driving people to the website. But if that website is not set up for conversion, if it's not optimized for conversion, then, so much of that traffic ends up going, well, and I'm not seeing what I need here, or it's too many quick clicks, or I just can't find it that easily. And it's amazing how difficult we make it for people to find things like pricing or floor plans, or, I was on a website the other day and it was like 4 clicks to get to like find a community. When I click on find a community, I actually want to find a community, but this was like, click on find a community, get a map. The map has 42 pins. Okay. And then there's like a filter thing on the side. Okay, now I've got to find my state. And then another list comes up and I've got to do this. And then I've got to go to the map thing where there was like a call, a view, and then finally a little box for a website. So I'm like already ticked off, right?
Yep,
I'm 5 clicks in and I'm not at a community. And, really when people, and I'm sure you're trying to drive people right directly to that community site.
Yes.
So your goal is not to get them to the homepage of a brand, but, a lot of traffic does come through that homepage. And so, I mean, there's so much that people just need to really think through from the user experience. But if we do have a ways to convert and forms and calls to action and things that we're going to collect their contact information, then when that lead comes in later from a third party, we can do a silent reject. We can take a look and say, nope, we already have that, and just ping that lead generation company back with a silent reject to say this lead's already in our system, and that in itself is going to save. So let's say that somebody works with Digital Strike and says, Jay, I need 10 sales qualified leads a month, and you're like, okay, you're going to have to spend $4,500 to get those 10.
Yeah,
you were going to save that just by not paying a third party, 1 month's rent anyway.
Exactly. That's a good point. I kind of was thinking about that as well with regards to, an average, I guess, lead from some of those lead generation websites can be anywhere from $3,000, to $6,000 or $7,000. And if you're generating your own leads with management fees and things like that, it could be anywhere from, $3,500 to $5,000, but you're getting maybe 10 to 12 opportunities that could lead to 2. So you're basically doubling your efforts on the same amount from the lead gen websites as well.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I was thinking about too from that study is that it says the average consumer is 25 touch points before making the next step. So if you can, on the first interaction, like you were saying, give them something simple like a download a brochure and kick them into your lead nurturing system, that gives you an opportunity to make those touch points your own rather than going back to like search engines and losing them to, competitors or lead generation websites and kick them into your funnel where you control those touch points now, as opposed to leaving it up to chance by, simply gathering their information on that first interaction on the website where they're just information gathering.
Yeah. 25 touch points. That's just amazing. I mean, You have to have 25 reasons for them to come back to you, right? So it's,
Yes.
if they come to your website and they can read everything and they have no reason to come back, there's not any fresh content, there's nothing new being published. It's, you're not going to get that 25. So you're probably not going to get that conversion. Super, super interesting.
Yeah, that study, and I would recommend, dropping the link. I know I sent you that link to that
Yeah.
particular study, and I think the audience listening to this, it'll be really helpful. I know their take is a little bit, as you get down towards the bottom out, lead gen is slanted towards phone calls and things like that, because they are a call tracking software solution. But a lot of the data points at the top about the industry specific, like the search intent, the lead generation, it's very informative and fascinating for anybody doing marketing in this space.
Oh, that's great. Well, we will have a link to that study in our show notes, and we will put information about you and Digital Strike. So, Jay, if people are interested and want to learn more about your services, what's the best way for them to get hold of you?
They can call us directly, 314-665-1655. They can email me or Chris Westmeyer, j@digitalstrike.com or chris@digitalstrike.com, or you can just check out our website, digitalstrike.com. And if you're interested and you want to see if your location is in one of our directories, we have about 3 directories online. One of them is the flagship of that is caringadvisor.com. I'd encourage you. We have an intake form on there. You can fill out some information, contact us. We'll gladly throw it in there. You can write up little content about your location as well. It helps us with creating content for the site as well. And
Sure.
we'll put, your email in to receive any leads that might be generated from it as well. So I just encourage you, to reach out, and we'll be happy to help.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to go and make sure that all of our clients are on your site. I'm not sure that they are, but that's going to be one of my goals. So, Jay, thank you so much for sharing your senior living marketing perspectives with us today. And I hope that we'll chat soon when we're back out enjoying conferences together in the near future.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.